For more on this, let's bring in Fox News contributor, National Review Institute fellow Douglas Murray. Love your column, and I stand with you full bore on what you had to say about the leaking must stop, the fact that this has gone on after Assange and Snowden, and people side with the leaker because we get to discover things. The leaks must stop.
Yeah.
Will they?
So I wrote about it in the New York Post today. It's extremely concerning. Just think back over the last 13 years. The Assange leak, as I always say, I debated Assange. I'm about the only person who's done that face-to-face. And I asked him then, when are you going to release the Russian government's secrets? When are you going to release the Communist Party of China's secrets? I'm still waiting to hear the answer. I loathed Assange before everyone else did. I loathed him when the left loved him, and I loathed him when the right loved him, as they did, some did after the DNC hacks. But, you know, the Assange leak was given to him by Private Bradley Manning, an incredibly low-level operative in the US Army, did incalculable damage to American interests. 3 years later, Edward Snowden, a contractor at the NSA, a contractor. Fast forward to this leak, and we have this 21-year-old, unbelievably junior. How is it possible, it's the point I make in the column, how is it possible that people of such a low level consistently have access to the most damaging information and secrets that they can leak about America? No other ally of ours has the same thing. We do not have, every few years, mass leaks from MI5 or MI6, from the Canadian intelligence agencies, from the Australian or New Zealand intelligence agencies. Obviously, those are just our allies. Our opponents, competitors and others, you know, it's great for the Kremlin, once again, as with Edward Snowden, who released all this stuff that was incredibly helpful for the Kremlin, and then went, and found sanctuary in Vladimir Putin's Russia. Very useful for the Kremlin. Has there ever been a leak the other way around? No.
But here's what gets me, Douglas. So when I sign into my bank account, I have dual authentication. I have to get a code and double sign in. They make sure it's me, not someone else. When I sign into my Gmail or my Hotmail, from a server that's not used to, I get prompted to go, hey, is this really you, Sean Duffy? And there's more people who use Gmail than have access to these secrets, or more people who sign in online on their phones to their banks than have access to these informations. What the hell is going on in the federal government? I'm so angry we have these leaks, and how incompetent the Pentagon is that they can't keep our secrets safe.
Well, so there's two aspects. One is the obvious fact that if tens of thousands of people have access to something, is it really a secret?
Right.
I mean, this is a real problem that the American agencies have to address. When this information is available to the lowest level, 21-year-old, that is a systemic problem. But there's a second problem, which is a societal problem. You know, Bradley Manning just had to sit in jail for a few years, announced that he thought that he was a she, and there was Chelsea Manning, and was quite swiftly not pardoned. He got a commuting of a sentence from President Obama. And all the left were like, well, what's he done wrong? And anyway, he's a woman. So I say this guy, Jack, what's his name, is 21-year-old,
sure.
should say he's actually Jacqueline. He'll be out in a couple of years. But the point is that left and right keep on excusing leakers if it happens to help what they perceive to be their argument.
Yes.
There are people who are, for instance, opposed to the Ukraine war, who are saying at the moment, on the right as well as the left, oh my gosh, these secrets are extraordinary. We need to know about them. Sorry, once again, there is a name for people who leak information which benefits our adversaries, and particularly for those who then go and live in the country of our adversaries. They're called traitors. They are not called leakers, and they are not called journalists. Edward Snowden and Julian Assange have been described as journalists. Neither ever did a day's work as a journalist. They're leakers. They're traitors. That's what they do. And the fact that our society in America has become so tolerant of this is one of the reasons that a 21-year-old like this would even think of leaking information like this.
Amen.
Well said.
Stay right there.
Don't move anywhere.
Don't you dare
Stay
move.
with us.
New York is the latest state to consider banning sale of farmland to companies with ties to adversarial nations.
Fox News national correspondent Nate Foy, he's with us with more. Nate, what do you have?
Dagan, Sean, good evening. The concern here is giving up control to these adversarial nations over our country's food supply, at least in part. And the Commerce Department gives examples of adversarial nations as China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, and Venezuela. But China specifically is the country that has lawmakers both at the state and federal level in both political parties really trying to act quickly on this. China owns over 400,000 acres of farmland in the United States worth over $2 billion, according to the Department of Agriculture. Now a lawmaker here in New York is trying to change that. Listen to him.
I think, keeping our country safe, making sure we are not allowing foreign adversaries to come in here and threaten our national security, whether that is a spy balloon or buying up a farm like this. I think it's a top concern.
So that's Democrat New York State Assemblyman Angelo Santa Barbara. He's the author of a new bill here in New York that would ban foreign adversaries from buying farmland. He believes the bill has enough bipartisan support to become law this calendar year. Across the country, take a look at this. You can see this is a bipartisan issue. The 16 states that you see in red already have bans in place, and the 15 states in yellow right now are considering bans. You see that list includes New York and California, but also Texas and Florida, two states or two groups of states that often don't agree on much. We spoke with Republican Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, who says this is actually a federal issue. Listen to him.
We're being attacked by China and other countries around the world, and we need to make sure that we're all in this together, not just New York, not just Alabama, not just Iowa. We're all in it together.
Just last month, Senator Tuberville introduced a bill that would ban foreign adversaries from buying farmland across the entire country. That also has bipartisan support, and he's now calling on the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to bring it before the Senate for debate. We'll send it back to you guys.
Nate, 40 feet, a little snow in the background. I could think you're in Wisconsin. Thanks for that report. Appreciate it.
You got it.
All right. So Douglas, I look at this and go, I think it's great that the states are actually taking this upon themselves to ban foreign sales of their farmland. But isn't this a role for the federal government? Isn't this a congressional role that should be taking action to ban these sales?
It's possible. There's certainly a debate on that. I mean, you would have thought, as Nate just said, I mean, it's sort of obvious that if a North Korean company wants to buy up large amounts of American land, you'd hope that people wouldn't sell it to them. Obviously, the issue here is China.
Right.
In a way, you know, I mean, it's a bit late in the day now, as Nate just mentioned, but in a way, I'm actually more concerned about the amount of our backyard in America that's being bought up in China, the extent to which Central and Southern America have been severely compromised by China, to an extent that I think, you know, would shame politicians of both sides. We've had our eye off the ball on this for a long time now. So I'm pleased that so many people, one of the Florida congresswomen has made this a big issue as well. I'm pleased that they're onto it, but it's very late in the day.
I went through and started reading articles written about this in the last month or so about the efforts by the states to stop the purchase of land by China, communist China, and over again, racism.
Yeah.
Racism. Oh, harkens back to the dark days of America's history. CNN analysis. And not one article talks about what China does. What is the law in China? Can Americans go to China and buy land? No.
Right.
So why is it racist that we want to stop what China does here that we're not even allowed to do there? Again, what's the word? Duffy. Reciprocity.
Reciprocity. There we go. Reciprocity.
It's Friday afternoon.
I thought the word was Duffy from
It is Duffy.
Like, again,
yeah. We
wipe away the argument of racism if we level the playing field.
I mean,
you do it to us, we're doing it to you.
Yeah. It's you know, something I've said a lot in recent years is that, you know, when the barbarians will be at the gate, we'll be discussing what gender pronouns to call them. And you can say equally that, you know, when China takes over the world, becomes the world's dominant economy, when Chinese currency overtakes the dollar, we'll still be stroking our chins and trying to work out whether it's racist to write about it. I mean, it's a sort of level of societal stupidity that's positively Roman.
It's like we're preserving American oil so the Chinese, when they take us over, they're going to come and pump it, make that money. It should be ours. I want to switch gears on it because President Biden concluded his trip to Ireland amid all the chaos from the intel leak, but that didn't seem to let the news spoil his good times in the Emerald Isles, Douglas.
Don't jump, okay? Oh, I didn't see it all the way up there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to go plant a tree.
That dog.
How old I am. But it's a little bit of wisdom. So thank you all. God bless you all. Let's go lick the world. Let's get it done.
Douglas, let's go lick the world. Maybe we've seen him maybe smell the world. But I would hope that the president, when such serious things are happening back at home, had a more serious demeanor, even if he's over in Ireland.
Look, I mean, Ireland for President Biden is his happy place, of course. He just never stops talking about his Irish heritage. It's something he actually has been extraordinarily ropey on throughout his career. In the 1980s, then Senator Biden was exceptionally unhelpful in British requests to extradite IRA terrorists, for instance, who were in the United States and had sanctuary here. He was not at all helpful to America's ally, the UK, at that time. Just yesterday, he posted a selfie of him with Gerry Adams, former head of Sinn Féin IRA, who was one of the people throughout the Troubles responsible for the murder of about 1,600 people. You know, well, OK, it's 25 years in the past now, but I reckon that if a British Prime Minister posed with one of the bin Laden family or somebody else who'd brought down the Twin Towers, for instance, and did a smiley selfie, I reckon that Americans would be pretty upset. Well, a lot of people in Britain are very upset because we lost a lot of good people, innocent people, day in, day out for 30 years because of the people who, once again, President Biden has been chumming up with and who he, frankly, you know, carried water for far too many years. So I'm glad he's proud of his Irish heritage. I wish he'd actually been involved in the peace process, including telling people like Gerry Adams that terrorism was not acceptable ever, not in America, not in Britain, nowhere.
And as America's leaking like a sieve, maybe you could be a little more serious about the times that we're actually in. That would be nice as well. But I take your point as well made.
Can you just go hide somewhere? I don't care where it is. Just go hide. Again, because he's spitting in the face of Great Britain.
His basement might be calling his name, Dagan.
And he's spitting in the face of Americans back here at home.
Douglas Murray, thank you.
It's a great pleasure.
I understand. I lived in England in the 80s.
You know what it was like?
And I know what it was like, and it was terrorism.
Yeah.
It was terrorism on every corner.
Every day.
Yep.
Douglas Murray.
Great to see you.